Now that we've got our text screen put together, let's try to show a text input inside of it. Remember, that's the entire goal of this application. We want to show a text input towards the top. All right, so to show a text input inside of a React component, we're going to first find our import statement right here from React Native. And in addition to the primitive components of view and text, we're also going to pull in another primitive element called text input. So as you might guess, this is going to show a text input to our user that they can type some text into. Inside of my text screen, I'm going to remove the existing text element right there, and I'll replace it with text input, like so. All right, so you might think it's just that easy to show a text input. Well, it kind of is, and it kind of isn't. Let's save this and test out our application and just see what happens. Okay, so I'll save this. I'll go to my text demo screen, and sure enough, I see absolutely nothing at all. So yeah, you might think it's just that easy. Well, maybe it's not. So it turns out that when we show a text input element, by default, it actually is on the screen. It just doesn't quite show up in a way you would expect. So on my Android device over here, I'm going to kind of tap right underneath the header. And as soon as I do, you'll see the keyboard appear and I get a cursor there and I can start typing in. Also on iOS, I can tap right underneath that header. Oh, I accidentally hit the header button. Let me try it again. There we go. And I can see my cursor there and I can type. And sure enough, it appears that the text input actually is there. So here's the thing about using the text input primitive. By default, it has 0 styling applied to it, with the exception of some height that is assigned to it. So by default, it has some amount of height, but other than that, there's absolutely nothing that's going to actually indicate to you that it's visible on the screen. So whenever we make use of a text input, we are always going to end up adding in some styling to it. So let's do that right away. I'm going to find my styles object right here. I'm going to expand that object, and I'll add in a new styling property. I'll call it, how about input? Remember, the names of the properties we add inside of here, we can make up at will. It just has to be something that makes sense to you and other developers. So we're going to use this object right here to apply some styling to our text input. I think we should probably add in some margin. I'll do margin of 15. I'll also add in a border color of black and a border width of 1 like so. We haven't really spoken a lot about some of the different styling properties that are available to us just yet. We're going to go over styling in great detail as soon as we finish up with all this state stuff pretty darn soon. And at that point in time, you're going to learn about all the different styling properties we have access to. Anyways, let's now apply this style to our text input. So back in my text input, I'll say style is styles.input. Okay, let's save. And now once we go back to our text demo, yeah, there we go. Now that's a lot more visible than it was before. All right, so showing a text input, well, yeah, it actually is kind of easy. The problem is that we always have to apply some default styling because otherwise we see nothing appear on the screen, even though it technically is there. Now let's take another quick pause right here. There's one other quick thing that you need to know around text inputs that you're going to need to apply to them almost all the time, just as this style that we just applied. So quick pause, and we'll talk about that other properties, or those 2 other properties, in the next video.